I saw many things coming our way. What sort of things? Kushina asked. I cannot tell you everything, only those which apply only to you and your husband. Alethea looked down at the ground. For instance, that man with the long black hair. What was his name again? Starjan, Kushina asked. Yes, him. I can tell you that you and your husband are going to owe him by the end of this year. Owe him how? He's going to return something precious to you both. What could that be? Kushina asked, wondering what on earth Starjan could possibly return to her. It wasn't like he took anything from them. I don't know. The old lady replied, but I can also tell you that you will never fight him again, for he is destined to battle another in war. Besides, you wouldn't stand a snowball's chance in hell against him. Thanks for a boost of confidence, Kushina said solemnly as a sweat drop ran down the back of her head. Don't feel so down. We all have our own battles to fight, like how you'll have one when you get back. What? Yeah, the temple's about to be attacked any minute now, Alethea said nonchalantly. Menma. Natsumi. Mikoto. Kushina bolted to her feet, ready to spring into action. Calm down, Kushina, they are safe for now, the old lady said. Same cannot be said for you. Kushina and Alethea turned to a new voice and found themselves looking at a young woman. It's good to finally meet you, Kushina. The suffix was added with a tiny amount of venom in it. The woman stood at roughly the same height as Kushina, with shoulder-length black hair, icy blue eyes, a fair complexion, and a body most women would kill for. She wore a skin-tight black jumpsuit with steel bracers, greaves and breastplate. In the center of the breastplate was a green crescent moon. Around her neck and covering her mouth was a long green scarf, and on her back rested a bow. Who are you? Kushina demanded. Shikijo is the name and killing you is the game, she said as she drew her bow. 3 icicles formed out of thin air as she drew her bow back. She used the icicles like arrows. Hayaten Churarayashi fired the arrows at her targets. Kushina and Alethea jumped into the air, avoiding the arrows as they struck the ground. Boom! They struck the ground with such force that they cratered and froze the ground. Not bad, Shikijo flashed through hand signs, but try and dodge these. The water behind her rippled before countless amounts of small water bullets rose from the water behind the assassin and were aimed at the 2 Uzumaki Hayaten Heikayo Hayo. All the water bullets became frozen over and shot for the airborne women. Kushina, you must return to the temple, Alethea said. I'll handle this brat. The old lady pulled her beaded necklace off. She separated it and connected each end to a pair of sai, creating a kusarigama. From Kriyash, Alethea rapidly spun one end of her weapon in a large circle in front of Kushina and her, and the hail smashed against the makeshift shield. Just who the hell are you? Shikijo demanded as Kushina and the old lady landed back on the ground. Alethea readied her weapon as Kushina gripped her katana. The old lady reached out to Kushina, signaling her to stop. Kushina returned to the temple immediately. I shall handle this wench. Alethea-sama. Listen to your Gradma, Kushina. Shlish. Shikijo bent her head out of the way as the old lady launched a lightning-fast blade at her head. Oh, so the old lady's going to fight, Shikijo said. Then this'll be fun. I'll end this in 30 seconds. The old lady readied her kusarigama for another strike. 30 seconds? That isn't enough time to take my top off. She received a blank stare. Not that I need to. Don't die, Alethea-sama, Kushina said as she bolted off for the temple. Back at the temple, we backtrack a bit to find Yoshi meeting with the assistant masters of the temple. You all must be ready for the battle that is coming, Yoshi said to 2 rows of 4 men and a woman of varying ages. All of them wore navy blue kimonos with red spirals on their backs, and all of them were assistant masters. Kneeling next to Yoshi was Shen. Directly behind Mikihisa was one of the younger masters. He was bald with a short red goatee. His name was Sango. Behind Sango was an old man with waist-length white hair and a shoulder-length mustache. This old man's name was Yugo. In the back of the row was a large muscular man. His red hair was waist-length but has braided into 20 separate braids. His name was Samson. In the next row over behind Ion was a young woman. She had long waist-length red hair with 3 hair clips in it, 2 crossed over at the top of the hair and another below them. Her name was Kana. Behind Kana was a young-looking boy who could easily pass off as an 8-year-old. He had wild spiky red hair and a face similar to Kana. His name was Hana, Kana's younger brother. In the back of the row was an old man. He had shoulder-length white hair with a large left bun covering his left eye. His name was Ryuji. Sensei, how do we know when this battle will start? Samson questioned the old man. If the attacker is who I believe it to be, then they will attack us soon, for he will want me dead. Yoshi replied. Mikihisa and Ion, take Mikamo, Matsuki and Nenko to the safe hold. What for, Sensei? Hana asked. I fear that they will be his intended target to get to Kushina. Who exactly are we dealing with, sensei? Ryuji asked. A former student of mine, Yoshi replied, one I never thought I'd see again after hearing of his death for Alethea. Now sensei, don't go spoiling the surprise. Everyone's heads shot up and turned to the windowsill. Sitting on the rail of the window was a tall man wearing a black mask with 3 horns coming off its forehead. Despite being pitch black, the mask mostly resembled a black skull and only showed his wide unblinking eyes. Though he wore a full head mask, it didn't his back-length blood-red hair, his high bangs framing the skull of a face. He was wrapped in a black cloak that had numerous red clouds on it. His arms were outside of the cloak and rested on his knees. On his back rested a long katana in a black sheath and a nadachi wrapped in cloth. Standing next to him was an equally tall man who was rather grotesque in appearance. He had a muscular build, except for a bulging fat stomach. Interestingly, he had 6 muscular arms, the extra 4 growing out of his shoulder blades. He wore black pants over his muscular legs with no shoes and a custom-made black open vest showing off his vulgar appearance to the fullest, as well as a yellow circle over a yellow cross. His eyes were large and solid black, and he also lacked a nose and a mouth. Shimaru-sama, can I eat them? The creature asked, despite not having a mouth to say such a thing. Not now, Hoshoku. Shimaru replied, I want my little pet to play with them, he said casually, turning to the grotesque creature, ignoring as all the masters stood up and drew their weapons. Besides, they'll give you a bad case of indigestion. You always get that when you eat humans. I can't help it if humans are so tasty. Sango pulled out a long golden staff. Yugo pulled out 2 katana. Samson pulled out 2 massive gauntlets, each one with a bull face crafted into them. Kana pulled out a scythe while her little brother pulled out a pair of tonfa. Ryuji merely pulled out an elegant katana while Mikihisa drew an ordinary one and Ion drew a kwandu. So Shimaru is what you call yourself now? Yoshi asked, unfazed by this man's sudden appearance. He could have sword. Shimaru was smiling back at him. Sure as, old man. The masked man replied, are you going to be a kindly old man and give up Uzumaki Namikaze Kushina nicely? What makes you think she's even here? Well, I sent Shikijo to the Yomi cave to see if she was there and she hasn't reported back yet, so I'm going to assume she's either here or there, or possibly between the two. Never mind that. How did you get into this temple? Samson demanded. That's a very rude way to ask a question, Assistant Master Samson, Shimaru replied. How do you know my name? The large Uzumaki asked. I know all your names, Shimaru replied, as I should. Besides, a little bird told me last night. Your son? Sango questioned. It appears we have a traitor in the temple, Ryuji mentioned. Yoshi eyed every individual in the room. Let's take this battle outside of this room, Shimaru. If they were. I would love to do that. Shimaru got up from the railing. I'd just hate to ruin this lovely chamber. Mikihisa. Ion. Shen. Go protect Kushina's group. Yoshi bolted for Shimaru, drawing a 2-foot-long sword from his walking stick. Clang boom, the 2 men clashed in the center of the room. Yoshi's sword strike was blocked by Shimaru's arm. Hoshoku, take the battle outside. Even without a mouth, Hoshoku's face resembled great delight before jumping out the window, followed by the 6 remaining masters as Mikihisa, Ion and Shen vanished to go protect Mikoto, Natsumi and Menma. Shimaru and Yoshi both seemingly smirked before they too vanished from the room. Alethea threw both ends of her weapon at Shikijo, but the younger woman fired off 2 icicles from her bow and deflected the blades. The 2 sai embedded into the ground and Alethea pulled herself towards the assassin, slamming her feet into Shikijo's face. Kriak, an icicle formed in Shikijo's hand before she stabbed Alethea through the foot and threw the old woman into the side of the cave. Korikiri. A dozen large streams of water erupted from behind Shikijo and raced at Alethea. When they were in front of the old woman, they began to spiral together and freeze over, creating a large spiraled icicle. Hiya! Alethea whipped her Kusarigama at the oncoming drill. The beaded weapon wrapped around the giant icicle and with a tug shattered it. Hayatan Churaya! Shikijo fired 5 icicle arrows into the Kusarigama, pinning it to the ground. Now it ends. She flashed through hand signs Hayatan Kyodai to Ketsuyama Shijiki. Shit, Alethea said as she glanced up as Shikijo formed an enormous icicle above her. The icicle was so massive it easily could be called a mountain in and of itself. The old lady placed her fingers in a cross formation and created 2 clonus out of the water behind her. Kaiten Yamakaji Tsunami, the old lady released a large stream of fire from her mouth while the 2 clonus released 2 tornadoes. Futen Sadana Tatsumaki. The 3 attacks fused together, creating a mountain-sized sea of flame. Boom FSS. The flames collides with the icy mountain in equal strength, cancelling each other out in a minute. Shikijo landed on the ground and brushed a tiny amount of ash off her shoulder. She didn't look as happy as she seemed to be originally. This is really shaping up to be a pain in my ass, she said. Perhaps I should show you my true power. Her entire body was seemingly covered in a green aura. She opened her mouth as if in ecstasy and let her tongue hang out. Her tongue was much longer than a normal tongue, going roughly a foot past her chin, and was forked on the end. What's more, two of her teeth extended out like fangs while her eyes changed into yellow with a black slit. Here, behind Shikijo, a large figure formed. While its bodily shape resembled a starved woman, it was covered in green scales and lacked cover over its body. Its long arms had only sharp claws with only 3 fingers for hands, and its head resembled that of a cobra. Though its hood appeared detached and had dozens of living snakes jutting out of the back of its skull and neck. And now the real fight begins. Back at the temple, the battle with Hoshoku was not going well for the assistant masters. The grotesque monster weaved in and out of each of their attacks like a leaf in the wind. Ha 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 ho. This is fun. But I'm hungry. He turned his attention to Hana. That little kid looks delicious. Kana slashed for the monster's head only for it to hold up its arms, blocking the scythe before grabbing her with as his arm grew to an abnormally large size, completely encompassing her, save for her head. Kana-chan. Hana yelled as he looked helplessly at his sister. He ran for Hoshoku, twirling his tonfa as he neared the beast. But before he could get close, 2 of the monster's hands flashed through several hand signs before ending on Tiger Katen Hano Kimono. Flume. 2 streams of fire burst from his hands, each taking the form of a beast-like creature's head. A thin line appeared on Hoshoku's stomach before it opened, revealing a large grotesque mouth in his stomach. The mouth had countless teeth jutting out at all sorts of angles. Time to eat, he said as he began to lower Kana into his gaping maw. Samsung slammed his gauntleted fist into Hoshoku's head, making him release Kana and knocking him to the ground. Unfortunately, the beast got back up and cracked his neck as if nothing had happened. What kind of a monster is this? Ryuji asked aloud. I'd be no monster, Hoshoku said. I'd be human. All 6 assistant monster were stunned. There were humans like this? No, humans like this were nothing more than abominations. I can show you a real monster. He began to flash through hand signs before slamming 2 of his hands into the floor. Poof. He just summoned something. A spear flew out of the smoke and impaled through Yugo's heart, carrying him with it before becoming embedded into the wall of the main temple. Yugo coughed up blood, struggled a bit, then moved no more. When the smoke cleared, there stood a creature. It was humanoid in appearance with large muscles and a long beak-like face. Its arms, back, legs and tail were all covered in thick red fur. Growing out of its back was a pair of black feathered wings. It had claw-like hands and feet with 3 toes. It wore 3 necklaces around its neck, and its eyes were white and solid red with no pupils. What is that thing? Kana wondered aloud. Jai. The new monster roared as it raised its arms to the heavens and flexed his muscles, before it charged the 5 remaining assistant masters. Atop the main temple, Yoshi and Shimuru were engaged in a deadly sword duel. Shimuru had drawn a 6-foot-long black nadachi. Clang clang clang, the 2 men lunged at each other and collided in a flurry of sword strikes. The song of metal striking metal would be heard hanging in the air. You always were gifted with the sword, Yoshi said. Thank you, Sensei, Shimuru said as they clashed and got up in each other's faces. Hearing that makes me happy. Bullshit. Suddenly Yoshi heard an unearthly scream. The old man glanced down to the ground but looked back quickly enough to block a lunge from Shimuru. Sounds like Hoshoku summoned my little pet. Shimuru said. I took him from my old boss. Figured they wouldn't need it since all they're after is food. Don't take the masters of this temple lightly, Shimuru. Yoshi said. They can handle anything thrown at them. Not this creature, Shimuru said. It nearly killed me because I got too close to it while it was eating. Yoshi looked rather unconvinced. Perhaps I should just make this even more fun, Shimuru said as he began to draw a katana from the sheath on his back. The blade was simple and elegant with a standard steel blade, a normal guard and a bandaged wrap sheath. Rah. Clang clang clang, Shimuru doubled his assault against the old man, making sparks fly with each strike. You've gotten strong, Shimuru, Yoshi said, but you forget why I'm the master of this temple. Yoshi began to flash through hand signs. Sutin. Schwack, Shimuru sliced Yoshi across the chest, taking off the old man's hand. Now sensei, since I haven't used a single jutsu since I got out of prison, it's only fair if you don't use any either. Yoshi just stared down at the bleeding stump that was his hand a moment ago. He looked Shimuru dead in the eye with a serious gaze. A hand is nothing. I can defeat you without any jutsu and with only one hand. Bring it on, old man, Shimuru said as his eyes flashed red. Shen, Mikihisa and Ion led Mikoto, Natsumi and Menma into a chamber under the temple. What's happening out there? Mikoto asked. War, Shen replied. War, Natsumi questioned. More like we're being attacked. Ion said nothing to worry about, just two enemies. Let me help you, Mikoto said. I can fight. No. Mikihisa ordered. Our orders are to protect you three and when Kushina returns to get you back to Konoha safely. Besides, the assistant masters can handle this fight. After all, it's 6-on-1. I have this feeling, Shen said, gaining everyone's attention. Didn't he mention that a little bird told him everything last night? Yes, Ion said. You don't think? Yes, there's a traitor in this temple, Shen completed. Shen, go find this traitor, Mikihisa said. Ion and I shall remain here. I'll be back soon, Shen said as he left the safe hold in search of the traitor. I already know who the traitor is, the monk thought as he raced down the hall. He took a sharp turn down a dark hall, but all that came out was an enormous splatter of blood. Meanwhile, Kushina was making a beeline for the Yuzugakure temple. Hang in there, everyone. I'm coming. Suddenly she felt a presence that was all too familiar. No, she said as she stopped and turned around. Hello, Kushina, a man said. Sergeant Kushina said as she met with one of her greatest fears once more. Shen, Mikihisa and Ion led Mikoto, Natsumi and Menma into a chamber under the temple. What's happening out there? Mikoto asked. War, Shen replied. War, Natsumi questioned. More like we're being attacked. Ion said nothing to worry about, just two enemies. Let me help you, Mikoto said. I can fight. No, Mikihisa ordered. Our orders are to protect you three and when Kushina returns to get you back to Konoha safely. Besides, the assistant masters can handle this fight. After all, it's 6-on-1. I have this feeling, Shen said, gaining everyone's attention. Didn't he mention that a little bird told him everything last night? Yes, Ion said. You don't think? Yes, there's a traitor in this temple, Shen completed. Shen, go find this traitor, Mikihisa said. Ion and I shall remain here. I'll be back soon, Shen said as he left the safe hold in search of the traitor. I already know who the traitor is, the monk thought as he raced down the hall. He took a sharp turn down a dark hall, but all that came out was an enormous splatter of blood. Meanwhile, Kushina was making a beeline for the Yuzugakure temple. Hang in there, everyone. I'm coming. Suddenly she felt a presence that was all too familiar. No, she said as she stopped and turned around. Hello, Kushina, a man said. Sergeant Kushina said as she met with one of her greatest fears once more. The Birdman was relentless. First it blitzed right in front of Kana and punched her right into the face, slamming her into the ground. Then it flew at Hana and kicked him in the face with one of its clawed feet, leaving 3 gashes across the boy's face as he fell to the ground. But it wasn't done, as it soon raced for the largest of the Uzumaki, Jiya. The Birdman roared as it grabbed Samson's face and slammed him headfirst into the ground with a thundering smash. Blood sprayed all over Samson's head as he felt the back of his head get sliced open from the impact. The beast lifted Samson up and opened its beak, revealing countless rows of sharp-pointed teeth and even a saliva-covered tongue. Raiden Kage no Kawa Kanabo, Sango said as lightning chakra flowed into his golden staff. The staff became fluid like a river and became a thick golden kanabo. Let go of him. Thwack, he bolted at the beast and slammed his club up into the lower jaw of the Birdman, snapping its mouth shut and sending the beast 3 inches off the ground. Hornbuster wham creesh. Samson lifted his 2 bull-headed gauntlets and slammed them together with the monster's head between them. Unfortunately, the beast didn't even flinch and Samson's gauntlets shattered into scrap metal on impact. Wah! Ryuji appeared behind the beast with his elegant katana drawn back and encased in water. Aim for its vitals. No matter how strong it is, we can still kill it. Suten Taki Dantode no Jutsu. Clung, the blade skipped off the back of its neck, leaving no damage. If anything, it only irritated the beast. This should be impossible. Kai! The creature screamed as it wiped around and grabbed the oldest monk by his collar and waist and hoisted him over its head. Kersploosh! With a mighty pull, the Birdman tore Ryuji in half. The old man's blood and guts flew everywhere as the beast roared in triumph and tossed the split body to either side. You bastard! Sango roared as he slammed his golden kanabo into the beast's chest, rocketing the beast back but also breaking Sango's weapon in the process. Shit. Nei-chan. Hana yelled as he flashed through hand signs. Kana nodded and flashed through them as well. Kaiten Engine Ho no Jutsu. Hana breathed a massive red fireball of flame at their opponent. Futen Fujin Ho no Jutsu. Kana yelled, releasing multiple massive air streams at the Birdman, who looked over at them just as the 2 attacks combined and swallowed the beast in a sea of hot flames. Alright, we got him, Hana said, delighted as he, Sango and Kana. Don't forget about me, Hoshoku said, emphasizing the last syllable as he appeared behind the monks. 2 of his hands were double his body size and clapped together over his head while the bottommost 2 were cocked back for punches. Kroom, the disgusting man, slammed his two hands down on Sango, cratering the ground and spraying blood everywhere. Wham! Before they could react, Hoshoku slammed his cocked fists into their chests and sent them flying into the walls of the temple. Ha 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 ho. It's not even time to eat and you're all beat. In that moment the enormous fire died away, revealing the Birdman still lived. Though it was covered in slight burns from the attack, it seemed even more enraged than ever before. Jia! It roared as it blitzed towards Samson. The large Uzumaki flashed through hand signs. Dotton was Sandanju. He stomped his foot onto the ground, making an armada of fist-sized stones hover in front of him. He proceeded to punch the air repetitively, sending 10 stones flying at the beast with each punch. But the beast weaved in and out of each stone, dodging them effortlessly. Damn! He flashed through more hand signs. Dotten Kengan no Jutsu. He encased his right arm in rock and cocked back, just as the beast cocked back its own fist. Boom! Samson's fist collided with the Birdman's and both man and beast were flung back. Arg! Samson yelled in pain as he clutched his right arm. He pulled up his sleeve and saw that his entire arm was black, purple and blue. Damn! He looked in front of him to see the Birdman get back up. It then did something that shocked all 4 remaining assistant masters. It flashed through several hand signs before slamming its hands onto the ground. In the blink of an eye its forearms were covered in rock. It copied my jutsu, Samson wondered aloud. It has to be incredibly smart to be able to pull that off, Kana said. Great, this thing has brain and brawn, Hana added. Of course it does. Hoshoku said Shimuru-sama stole it from his former organization. He said it was called a nitro. And it's completely under his control. Where the hell is Shen? Natsumi asked. Watch your mouth, young lady, Mikoto said before turning to Yuan and Mikihisa. Now where the hell is Shen? You're no better than Natsumi, Mikihisa said under his breath. He said he had some business to take care of, Yuan said. He's strong, Mikihisa added, but I fear he's been gone too long. Should we go find him? Mikoto asked. No. Mikihisa replied, he is hunting a traitor right now. Let him deal with it. Unbeknownst to the people outside the chamber, a man in a hooded cloak stood at the doors carrying a severed head. Let's get this party started, he said. Above the battle, Yoshi was having a difficult time battling Shimuru. The masked man's attacks were relentless and ferocious, like a feral beast's. Clang 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 every time their swords clashed. Sparks flew from their ferocity. Come now, old man, this can't be the best you can do. Shimuru taunted. 20 years should have made you stronger, but instead it made you much weaker. We'll see about that, Yoshi said before holding a hand up in a half-hand sign. Have you grown senile in your old age? Shimuru asked. You cannot perform any jutsu with just one hand. Hand signs are merely a way to focus one's chakra flow better, and there are still many techniques that don't require a stream of complicated signs. Kaiten Gakuden no Jutsu. Flume. Without any hand signs, the old man created a large stream of fire that shot from his mouth at Shimuru. Schwa Flume. The masked man swung his blades and split the flames in two. Nice jutsu, sensei. Now let me show you one of mine. Suten Daisuryuden no Jutsu. He spewed a large amount of water out of his mouth as it changed shape into a large powerful dragon. Use Uryu Daigakujin. Sploosh. Yoshi sliced the beast in half only to find Shimuru right on top of him. Didn't see this coming, did you, old man? Wham! He delivered a clean punch to Yoshi's gut, throwing him down into the tower, through the roof and down one level. Inside the room, Yoshi pushed some rubble off of himself as he stood back up. Oh sensei, how far have you fallen? Shimuru asked, looking down the hole he sent Yoshi through. Shimuru jumped down into the room after the old man. Suten Shijur no Jutsu. Boblam. Multiple water droplets floated up from a puddle of water and blasted for Shimuru, who responded by going through his own hand signs. Suten Samia no Jutsu. Many drops of water emerged from a nearby puddle, which were converted into the shape of deadly arrows moments before intercepting Yoshi's technique. Come now, old, our knowledge of jutsu is too evenly matched, Shimuru said. Let's settle this like real men. He held out his own 2 swords. Very well, Yoshi said, redrawing his own blade. An orange aura seemed to surround the old man before the upper body of a humanoid figure appeared behind him. It had long white hair. 2 large curved oar grew out of the back of its head while a single straight horn grew from its forehead. It had white furry shoulders as well as a furry back, while its exposed skin resembled more of muscle with a lack thereof skin. So you are releasing your inner beast, how delightful. Shimuru said as an indigo aura surrounded him. Time to let the beasts fight. Kaboom! The doors to the chamber were blasted in. The 5 occupants of the room turned to the disturbance to see the hooded man carrying the severed head. Is that? Natsumi asked aloud, her eyes widened at the sight. Oh no, Mikoto was equally stunned. She even had to cover Menma's eyes so he wouldn't be disturbed by the image. You bastard, Mikihisa growled, reaching for his katana while Yuan glared at the hooded man and gripped his kwandu. Who are you? My name is Uragiri. The hooded man said, and I have come for them. He pointed at Mikoto, Menma and Natsumi. Over our dead bodies, Yuan said. Well, that can be arranged. Uragiri said as two swords flew out of his sleeves and into his hands. Let's play. Natsumi, protect your brother, Mikoto said, handing Menma off to Natsumi. I'm going to fight. But I can fight too. If anything happens to you two, Kushina will never let me hear the end of it, Miku replied, turning towards the hooded intruder along with Yuan and Mikihisa. 3 against 1 hardly seems fair, the hooded man said. Perhaps this should even the odds. Poof, out of a large puff of smoke stood 9 clones of the hooded man, each one wielding 2 swords. Leave the children alive, he said to his clonus and unspoiled for Shimuru-sama. Kill the others. Yes sir, and with that the hooded men ran for Mikoto, Mikihisa and Yuan. Kuchiyo's no jutsu. Mikihisa and Yuan said simultaneously as they bit their fingers and slammed their palms on the floor. Poof, out of the smoke cloud emerged 4 great beasts. In front of Mikihisa were 2 large wolf-like dogs. One was pure white with a black-tipped tail while the other was solid black with a white-tipped tail. These beasts were Shinden, the white one, and Raiden, the black one. In front of Yuan appeared 2 large tigers, both of them identical aside from the shade of their orange fur. Their names were Kaizoukage, the tiger with the lighter fur, and Kan, the darker tiger. Get em, Yuan commanded, and the beasts leapt into battle. Jia. The nitro roared as it rushed Samson. Wham! The beast punched him right across the face with its stone-covered fist. Wham! Then it punched him with the other fist before grabbing him by his hair and hoisting him up. It opened its mighty maw to devour the man. Whap! Chains shot out from the end of Hana's tonfa and wrapped themselves around Hoshoku's middle right arm. You wanna play? No way, Fatso. Hana pulled with all his might and threw Hoshoku at the nitro. The Birdman sensed the threat, dropped Samson and jumped out of the way. The Birdman glanced up to see Kana hovering over it. Futen Furyuta no Jutsu. Whoosh! She expelled a large gust of wind from her mouth in the shape of a dragon. Babuash! The wind dragon struck its target dead on as and cratered the ground on impact. I got him, she yelled. Flume! An enormous stream of fire shot up through the dust straight for Kana. Lucky for her, Hana wrapped a chain around her wrist and pulled her out of the way, but the fire stream moved with her like it was continuously aiming at her. Out of nowhere 2 hands the size outhouses appeared on either side of Kana and moved in to squish her. Time to die, girly. Samson saw this and clapped his hands onto the ground, making a large pillar of earth shoot up from underneath Hoshoku, slamming the grotesque man in the jaw and knocking him back to the ground. The man grinned before getting back up again. How many times do we have to kill you? He pointed his 4 extra arms at Samson before enlarging them to the size of trees. On the palm of each of the 4 hands was a gaping mouth taking in a sharp intake of air. The mouth on his stomach reappeared and followed suit of the hand mouths. Kaiten Dai Shinetsu Jigoku Futen De Tapa, Hoshoku yelled. Flume! The hand mouths each launched 4 powerful gusts of wind before becoming engulfed in the fires from the stomach mouth. Samson barely got out of the way of the deadly flames. Only his left arm wasn't spared as it caught fire. Glutton's whips whoosh! The mouths on his hands opened and 4 tongues shot out like whips for Samson. Whap! Each tongue wrapped around one of Samson's limbs. Hoshoku made a creepy no-mouth smile before reopening his stomach mouth and hoisting Samson over it. Time to die. Ryup! Each of the arms made a mighty pull and tore Samson's arms and legs off. Odd! Samson screamed as he fell towards the open maw. Great Glutton's spear shunk a large tongue shot from Hoshoku's stomach mouth and through the large Uzumaki's torso. Samson! Hana screamed when the nitro blitzed the small Uzumaki with a kick to the head. Chomp! The tongue in Samson's torso disappeared into Hoshoku's stomach as the mouth faded away. That was delicious, the fat monster cheered before turning to Kana. Let me eat you next, girly. Crash! Boom! Before Hoshoku could make a move for Kana, a large crash occurred near him. Coming from what appeared to be underneath the temple, Mikihisa, Yuan and Mikoto emerged from the dust in fierce combat with Uragiri. Despite being relatively new to their little group, Uragiri had proven himself to be the second strongest man after Shimuru himself. The 4 combatants landed between Kana, Hana, the Nitro and Hoshoku. Ha ha ho. Uragiri, do ya need help? No. I got this. The hooded man replied as he raised his hands out to either side. His middle fingers were placed over the index and ring fingers while the pinky and the thumb were spread out wide on each hand. In a split second, hundreds of kune appeared out of thin air behind Uragiri's outstretched hands. That position, Mikoto said, recognizing it. How did you get that? Yuan demanded, gripping his kwandu tightly. Your answer will determine the speed of your death. They've always been mine. RRMMBB. A light blue aura erupted around Uragiri before an enormous muscular blue-skinned man appeared behind him. It had a muscular upper body that was covered in tattoos of chains. It wore a metallic, skull-shaped mask, with a massive mane of navy blue hair and glowing red eyes. Machine gun kune. Shuum shuum shuum. The hooded man began to throw countless kune at the remaining defenders. Kaiten Gakakayu no Jutsu. Mikoto flashed through hand signs and released a fireball 10 times the size she would have normally created. The flames swallowed up the kune, but Uragiri blocked it with his cloak. Fluim. The coat immediately caught fire, forcing Uragiri to remove it. What the good guys saw beneath stunned them to hell. He had short black hair with a long braid down his back, an angular face, a black muscle shirt, showing of his muscular arms and quite a bit of his chest. On the back of the garb was a hole showing white upside-down pentagram tattooed in the dead center of his back. He wore black pants and boots with blue sash tied around his waist. Aside from his attire, he was the spitting image of Shen. Surprised, he asked. Shen, Kana wondered aloud as she looked up from a wounded Hana. That's me. Or at least that used to be me. Impossible, Mikihisa yelled. You showed us his severed head. Oh please, Uragiri said. That was the easiest thing in the book to make, especially with my abilities. Care for a demonstration? Why? Yuan asked. Why would you do this? Oh, the typical bad guy reasons, money, power, and revenge, standard things. But you're Master Yoshi's son. Yes, it's true, he took me in when I was a child, but do you know who my real father is? He demanded. My real father is Uzumaki Nagi. Yeah, that's who was sentenced to a doomed mission for wanting to change this clan. That doesn't matter, Kana yelled. He still loved you no less. Too bad, cause I never liked him anyway. Always held me back, Uragiri said. Hey Uragiri, can we kill them now? Of course we can, and let the Nitro have some fun as well. Crash boom. Before the two sides could clash, something fell out of the sky and landed in between the two forces. Through the smoke, people could barely make out the form of a large snake-like being before it vanished. When the smoke cleared, there stood Shikijo carrying a defeated Alethea over her shoulder. Alethea-sama, Mikihisa and Yuan yelled. Okay, my job's complete, she said before turning to her comrades. Where is Shimaru-sama? Shunk. A black Nadachi landed between the Uzumaki Temple fighters group and the four attackers. Everyone looked up at the main tower of the temple as two figures burst from either side of the uppermost chamber. Clang clang slash. The two men briefly clashed before landing on the lousy battleground that was the temple roof. Master and student ran up the sides of the roof and clashed blades atop the peak of the temple before jumping back. Yoshi darted around the temple to his right, only for Shimaru to pop up and stabbed his sword into Yoshi's left hip. The older man slashed for Shimaru's head but only managed to slice the bottom of the mask off. Beneath the mask he got a glimpse of Shimaru's real face and his eyes widened. Shimaru, what happened to you? Clang. Yoshi blocked another strike from the masked man. All this, the masked man asked as he stroked his exposed chin. His chin and mouth were charred and bloody, revealing the muscles, tendons and bone structure beneath. It's a permanent reminder of my failed mission, and the force that made me the man I am today. You should know, you were there when Saki-san sent me on it to retrieve his daughter. I wasn't told she had a monster guarding her. What? Yoshi wondered aloud as he and Shimaru disengaged and stood on opposing sides of the roof. I know he was sent to retrieve Hidarioheim after she ran away, but we never heard from him after he told us he got her. I've been building up this rage for the last 20 years, 18 years in prison and 2 years building up my strength and power. Saki-san is dead, Yoshi-sensei will die soon, and once I kill Kushinaheim and her children and capture the Kyuubi, I'll rebuild the Uzumaki to their former glory. Then no one will stop me. Not any of the 5 great elemental countries, not Akatsuki, not the world government, not the Marines nor the Bishokuke. Schwack. Shimaru slashed straight in front of him, bisecting the top of the main tower off the rest. As the ornate roof fell towards him, Yoshi slashed at it countless times to the point it looked like he only made one slash. RRMMBBB. The debris turned to complete rubble and still descended towards Yoshi. Wham! Shimaru darted through the rubble at breakneck speeds and slammed a powerful kick to Yoshi's stomach. Both men plummeted to the ground at an alarming speed, Yoshi pinned beneath Shimaru's foot. Crash! They hit the ground hard enough to crater the ground. Ah! Yoshi yelled out in pain as he coughed up blood. Shimaru got off the old man, having used him to break his fall. The masked man was relatively unscathed save for his cloak being completely destroyed and the bottom half of his mask was gone, revealing his chin and mouth, and both were not pretty to look at. Yoshi-sama, Mikoto yelled. Stay back, Mikado-san, Yoshi begged as he motioned with his remaining hand. This is my battle. If this is how it ends, then so be it. I can't believe you thought you could kill me. Don't you remember Alethea-sama's prediction for me all those years ago? Even if you did, it's time for you to die, Sensei Shimaru said as he stood over Yoshi, drawing his black blade and holding it out over the old man's neck. Everyone froze. Silent screams flew from Natsumi, Hana, Kana, Mikoto, Yuan and Mikihisa. Hoshoku, Uragiri, Shikijo grinned as Shimaru brought his blade down for Yoshi's neck. Clang! Shimaru's katana was blocked by two swords. One was another black blade, his own Nadachi, and the other was a standard katana. I can't let you kill him, Shimaru, the black blade's wielder said. Sorry, we're late, everyone. Shimaru's eyes widened as he realized who were holding their swords against him. I expected Kushina but not you, Starjin. Schwack! Shimaru slashed straight in front of him, bisecting the top of the main tower off the rest. As the ornate roof fell towards him, Yoshi slashed at it countless times to the point it looked like he only made one slash. RRMMBBB! The debris turned to complete rubble and still descended towards Yoshi. Wham! Shimaru darted through the rubble at breakneck speeds and slammed a powerful kick to Yoshi's stomach. Both men plummeted to the ground at an alarming speed, Yoshi pinned beneath Shimaru's foot. Crash! They hit the ground hard enough to crater the ground. Ah! Yoshi yelled out in pain as he coughed up blood. Shimaru got off the old man, having used him to break his fall. The masked man was relatively unscathed save for his cloak being completely destroyed and the bottom half of his mask was gone, revealing his chin and mouth, and both were not pretty to look at. Yoshi-sama, Mikoto yelled. Stay back, Mikado-san, Yoshi begged as he motioned with his remaining hand. This is my battle. If this is how it ends, then so be it. I can't believe you thought you could kill me. Don't you remember Alethea-sama's prediction for me all those years ago? Even if you did, it's time for you to die, Sensei Shimaru said as he stood over Yoshi, drawing his black blade and holding it out over the old man's neck. Everyone froze. Silent screams flew from Natsumi, Hana, Kana, Mikoto, Yuan and Mikihisa. Hoshoku, Uragiri, Shikijo grinned as Shimaru brought his blade down for Yoshi's neck. Clang! Shimaru's katana was blocked by two swords. One was another black blade, his own Nadachi, and the other was a standard katana. I can't let you kill him, Shimaru, the black blade's wielder said. Sorry, we're late, everyone. Shimaru's eyes widened as he realized who were holding their swords against him. I expected Kushina but not you, Starjin. What brings you here, Starjin? Shimaru demanded. Nothing much, Starjin replied, just orders to kill you. Ingredient preparation Chief Shimaru for betraying us. Shimaru jumped back from Starjin and Kushina. Damn, I never expected them to find me so easily. It's only been a couple of months at the most. Please step back, Kushina. Starjin said, this is going to get ugly, and take that old man with you unless you're all fine with him being reduced to ash. Kushina did as Starjin told her without much hesitation. Why don't you all come at me at once, the black-haired man said. Everyone at once, Shimaru yelled, he cannot fight us all. Suten Daisuryudan no Jutsu, a familiar water dragon raced from Shimaru's mouth, and at the same time his three subordinates flashed through their own hand signs. Cotton Chimai Tekina Ken Rep. Shen Uragiri yelled as a gale of wind laced with blades emerged from his mouth. Hyeten Shurari Bafu Setsu, an enormous white dragon made of ice and snow, flew for Starjin from Shikijo. Kaiten Daishinetsu Jigoku, Hoshoku's stomach opened up and launched a massive fireball. All four attacks raced for Starjin, who calmly stood there before tossing the Nadachi to the side. Campfire! Starjin's entire body became engulfed in blue-white flames, making everyone step back from the intense heat. Chubi. Fluoaboom! The flames intensified to such a degree that the mere force threw everyone off their feet, and all four simultaneous attacks were negated by the unstoppable flames. The water dragon and ice dragon evaporated before they could even reach the flames, while the wind gale was forced skyward. Its blades melted instantly and the fireball was smothered out by the flames of Starjin. But the man stood in the heart of the flames, unwavering as the fringes of his shirt billowed in the wind. What powerful flames! Mikoto wondered aloud as she raised her arms up to try and block some of the heat. How would they fare against the legendary flames of Amaterasu? Is this Starjin's real power? Kushina questioned. No wonder Alethea-sama said I'd stand no chance against him. I can see why he's untouchable. How's he so powerful? Shikijo questioned Shimaru-sama. Who is this guy? His name is Starjin, sous-chef of the Bishokuke, Shimaru answered. Bishokuke? I thought you thing, a bunch of food maniacs. I did cause that's what they are. All they want is to control the world's supply of food for their own benefit. I joined them for a time, but seeing as how I was getting nowhere in terms of power I left. Is that all you got? Starjin asked. Shum suddenly a large shadow covered him as he looked up he saw Hoshoku falling towards him with 6 truck-sized arms. Ha 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 die. Kroom the fat monster smashed all 6 arms down on Starjin. Wham 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 even after the initial strike Hoshoku continued to strike that one spot with continuous punches. He ain't so tough. He said as his arms returned to normal and he landed on the ground. Oh really? He turned to see Starjin standing behind him completely unscathed. How'd you dodge that? Hoshoku demanded. I didn't, Starjin replied. I took the full force of your attack to see what you had, and I've got to say it is dismally pathetic. Why you boom? Starjin planted a powerful punch to Hoshoku's stomach, throwing him into the temple wall. Hoshoku, Shimaru yelled. Shikijo made a movement to attack Starjin but Shimaru held out an arm, stopping her. Enough, he is a foe beyond any of you, only I have a chance to defeat him. Then what should we do? Shen asked. Fall back for now, Shimaru replied. We'll figure out a better strategy later. But before we go through hand signs Katen Gakakayu no Jutsu. Fluum Shimaru launched a massive fireball towards Starjin who responded by raising a hand up to intercept the attack. Starjin's arm became wreathed in the flames from Shimaru's attack. Jekinetsu Kinhosha, with the snap of his arm the black-haired man swung his arm back at Shimaru, releasing a stream of fire from his arm. Fluash the flames wrapped around Shimaru, surrounding him in a vortex of orange flame. The flames died down revealing a charred skeleton and everyone sighed a breath of relief before Shimaru appeared above Starjin and attempted to slice the man vertically in half. Schwack Starjin took the slash, revealing no damage on his body. Shimaru attempted another slice, this time a star's neck. Wham! The black-haired man ducked and slammed his elbow into Shimaru's jaw. Ack! Shimaru coughed as he went slightly airborne. The masked man landed on his feet, hunched over slightly before he turned to Shikijo. Get what we really came here for. Understood. Morphing mask, Shen commanded as he raised a hand towards the nitro. The beast's body began to contort and transform into a red mask with a long beak. He blitzed over to it and grabbed the mask before putting it on. Costume change. Almost immediately after saying those words Shen became engulfed in a red cyclone. When it died down Shen was gone and all that stood there was the nitro exactly as it was moments before. What the hell? All the Uzumaki and Mikoto questioned before each person felt a powerful fist punch them in the face. The nitro moved with blinding speed, enough to strike everyone at seemingly the same time. Ha ha ha! The nitro laughed in a lower version of the former monk's voice. How do you like my nitro costume? Pretty cool huh? There's no jutsu like that in existence, Mikoto said, getting back up. How'd he do it? It's no jutsu. Nitro Shen replied, it's a magical ability I gained not too long ago, shortly after meeting Shimaru-sama. According to him it's called the Kamen no Mi. I can turn anything I touch into a mask and when I wear it I turn into said object while retaining my consciousness and abilities, and I also gain all of said thing's abilities. Mikado-san. Everyone turned to the temple as Natsumi came out carrying Menma. The little girl then spotted her mother Kachan. Help! Following closely behind her was a clone of Shen. Shit, a clone. Mikoto said, but before she could attack Kushina intercepted the clone. Schwack! Kushina sliced it from shoulder to hip. Blood shot out from the wound before it disappeared in a puff of smoke. Too easy. She said, but why was Shen chasing you? She asked Natsumi. Because Shen's really a bad guy, Mikoto yelled at her friend. What? Really? Kushina demanded, shocked by the revelation, turning back to Nitro Shen. Wham! The Nitro Shen suddenly blitzed to Kushina and clotheslined her in the neck, launching her away from her daughter. A little slow on the uptake are we, Kushina-san? Natsumi looked up at the beast in fear. Nitro Shen reached down and in a fast movement grabbed Menma from the little girl. He turned around to leave but Natsumi grabbed his furry leg. Let go of my baby brother, she demanded. She may have sounded brave but her body was screaming, I'm frightened. If you get in my way I'll kill you. Wham! Nitro Shen struck Natsumi with enough force to throw her over to where he just sent Kushina. The red-headed woman caught her daughter before she was seriously injured. That bastard, Kushina growled as she laid her daughter on the ground. Put my son down. She commanded as her voice got slightly deeper. Shen looked over to her, unfazed by her change in demeanor. Instead he calmly placed his right hand around the baby's head. One wrong move and I'll crush his skull, Shen threatened, making Kushina stop moving. It had become far too risky for her to attack. Any movement and Shen would kill Menma. Uragiri, we're leaving. Shimaru yelled out over to Shen. He was fighting what could easily be interpreted as a long drawn-out defeat. Starjin was just too powerful, and to make things worse the black-haired man was taking all of his attacks and not even breaking a sweat from exhaustion or showing any signs injury. Shimaru-sama? Shen his master. Leaving so soon, Shimaru-san, Starjin asked. Come now, we are just getting started. Take that child with you, Shimaru ordered to Shen. In the blink Shen was gone, only the Birdman mask remained, hanging from his sash. Shen looked down at little Menma in his arms, then back to Kushina, only to return his gaze to the baby. The baby was crying his head off for his mother, but orders were orders. He looked over at Kushina and Natsumi. Goodbye, Wuash, and he and the rest of the attacking party vanished from sight without a trace. Sheen. Kushina screamed as the traitorous Uzumaki escaped with her son. One day after the battle, the remaining members of the temple were in the process of recovering from the brutal attack. Loss at nothing gained. 4 masters were dead, Alethea was dead, Shen had betrayed the group, and worst of all, Menma had been kidnapped. Kushina sat on the main temple steps for the whole day, blaming herself for not being strong enough to save Menma. Her eyes were red and puffy from endless tears. First Naruto ran. Menma had been abducted. It was like the universe just loved to make her feel like the worst mother in the world. How will I tell all this to Minato? Kushina wondered to herself, but a familiar voice snapped. Kushina demanded. Believe me, I want nothing more than to have a fight. No, if possible, but I do not wish to fight you in such a condition. That's reassuring. I may not kill people unless it's necessary, but I guess you'll just have to trust me, Starjin replied, getting up. I should be. Shimaru. How's that going to help? It always helps to have an extra pair of arms or 8. But now that I found him, the real hunt can begin, Starjin said, smirking in delight. Kushina could hay sword. She saw his teeth grow sharper in that moment as he headed for the main gate of the temple. Goodbye, Kushina, you have my word. I will return with your son. He waved before a large eel-like dragon swooped down from the sky, past Star and back into the air, taking Star with it as it ascended. Kushina just looked up at the beast in awe as it flew for the horizon. Kushina, you may want to get in here, Mikoto said to her friend from just outside the main temple doors. The old man is dying. Yoshi's battle with Shimaru was so intense that it was too much for the old man to take. That and being used as a pillow for 250 pounds of muscle after a 10-story drop really did the damage they were meant to do. Inside Yoshi's chamber, Kushina found everyone surrounding the old man's bed. A single candle illuminated the room. Everyone looked sad, and were rightfully so. Could you all leave for a moment, please? Yoshi asked. They all began to leave. Not you 3. He said to Kushina, Mikoto and Natsumi. I must apologize for dragging you all into this, Yoshi said, and especially to you, Kushina. If you hadn't come here, your son wouldn't have been kidnapped. It wasn't your fault, Yoshi-sama. Kushina interjected, trying desperately to hide her sadness. No one could have seen this coming. No, but I did see it coming. Yoshi said, and I let it happen. Cough, cough, cough. The old man coughed before continuing. There are several major things I must tell you before I die, Yoshi began. First is about Ryoboku. I may have told you the truth, but I didn't tell you all of it. The truth is, about 32 years ago a foreign ship sailed into our harbor. You're pretty strong for a kid. A tall man said to the young redhead. He had thick black hair covering his eyes, a fierce grin, and a ratty old straw hat resting on his head. He wore gray pants, black boots, a red sash around his waist, and an open black shirt revealing his tone-muscled chest. The man wielded a sword in his right hand while holding a strange device in his left. Tied against his left hip was the sheath for the sword, and along the sash 3 other devices rested, ready for use. What's your name? He extended a hand to help the boy up from the ground. My name is Ryoboku, but everyone calls me Ryu. Fearsome name ya got there, lad, the man laughed. It's not that fearsome. It means driftwood. Ha 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 ha. The man That's hilarious. Ha 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 ha. Since you're making fun of my name, I should do. My name's Roger. He reached out and had clean-cut strawberry blonde hair, a small amount of facial hair with a black striped beard. He wore circular glasses, black pants and a yellow and purple floral patterned shirt, and in his right hand he carried a straight-bladed sword with a katana-styled hilt guard. And this is Rayleigh, my partner, he exclaimed with a grin. Captain Rayleigh groaned. Roger and Rayleigh, those are some strange names, Ryoboku said to the two men. A short ways away from the men and Ryoboku, Yoshi hid behind a tree listening into the conversation. Kid, you wanna turn the world upside down with us? Roger asked, extending a hand to Ryoboku. No thanks, Ryoboku said. I think I'm going to pick. Don't you want to at least think it over? About 10 minutes later, Yoshi finished his story. At the tender young age of 10, Ryoboku left the village, sneaking aboard that ship in the middle of the night. It was strange, really. No one knew that your father had allowed Ryoboku to leave. Perhaps you brother promised to find your sister. Which leads me into my second important detail. The old man reached into his kimono and pulled out a photo and handed it to Kushina. The three women looked at the photo and were quite surprised. In the picture were two women. They both looked near identical to Kushina, except they had a darker shade of red hair. The one on the straight hair running down mid-back, while the other woman's hair fell to her shoulders and was adorned with 3 red flowers on the left-hand side. Both of them also had extreme hourglass figures and matching outfits. The one on the right wore a green blouse while the one on the left wore a red blouse. Written on the front, me and my best friend, Anne. Who are these women? Kushina asked. I'm surprised you can't figure it out. Yoshi is a weird name, Natsumi said. It should. Glancing at the picture. That is an excellent question, Yoshi said, for you see I have no idea. The world is a village. It looks like Hidario met another woman who looked exactly like her. That's freaky, Natsumi said. The picture. Kushina asked, only for the old man to close his eyes. I'm sorry to say, but I burned the letter years ago, shortly after receiving it. Why? Mikoto asked before her best friend could. Why would you do that? If your father had have broken loose, Yoshi said. You aren't making any sense, the redhead woman almost yelled. The letter contained something far worse than anything in it. Was asking you to do something impossible for you at the time. What could have been so impossible for? When did you want to become a mother? Yoshi asked seriously, stunning all three women. Kushina was taken aback by the sudden question. Why? I got this photo 20 years ago. Think about it, Yoshi said, letting Kushina and Mikoto come to the conclusion. You were only 15. If anything were to happen to her, she wanted you to raise her child in her state. Cough cough cough. My time grows shorter. The last thing I must tell you is about Shimuru. What do we need to know? Kushina asked. Did either of you bleed during the battle? Yoshi asked. Yes, now that you mention it. Why? Shimuru plans to use your blood to locate the Kyuubi. Kushina and Natsumi's eyes widened, and what's worse, I fear that he plans to turn Menma into the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. We've got to stop him, Kushina shouted. You cannot, Yoshi replied. Why? Natsumi demanded. Because, when he was a member of this clan, Shimuru was one of, if not the strongest Uzumaki after your father. He initially proposed that we build up the strength of our country by abducting the Jinchuriki of the 5 great nations. The three women widened their eyes in surprise. He planned to do this by taking newborn Uzumaki children into the other villages and resealing the bijou into them, turning them into living weapons for the village. Is that what he plans to do? Yes, he most likely joined the Akatsuki to locate the other beasts, but now he's dead focused on the Kyuubi. Is there anything we can do? What's worse, everyone who follows him can only be killed by monsters. Cough cough cough. The three women raised his hand, stopping them. Cough cough cough. Don't bother trying to prolong my life. It is at its end now, Alethea. I can finally be with you again. And with that, the old man breathed his last and the candle beside him went out. He's gone, Kushina said. The last Uzumaki from my father's era is gone. Kachan, Natsumi asked, tugging on the hem of Kushina's dress. What's going to happen now? She asked. For now we return home, Kushina said. There is much we need to do. First thing is we need to find your brothers. Fast forwarding in time, we find ourselves returning to the Straw Hat Pirates of their ship the Thousand Sunny. Odd. Naruto groaned while he, Kurama, now in human form, Chopper, Usopp and Luffy hung over the port side rail of the ship. Once again they were out of food. 4 guesses why. This is so boring. How long this? He asked. About. He groaned this time. It feels like it's been forever. He looked over to see Nami leaning against the rail outside the kitchen. Oi Nami, he cried out. The orange-haired beauty looked over at the fishing quintet, specifically her captain, before a rubbery hand grabbed the rail next to her. Wowing snap! Luffy pulled himself up next to Nami and wrapped his arms around her from behind before she could react. Luffy, how many times do I have to tell you not wrap your arms around me? Always one more time, Luffy smiled and proceeded to kiss Luffy on the cheek, only for the captain to return the kiss full on the mouth. Yuck. Naruto, Chopper, Kurama and Usopp said all together while making disgusted faces at the couple. I don't get it. Why does Luffy want to spend more time with Nami? Naruto questioned. Who knows? Kurama replied, but our Cooties, Chopper asked, turning to Naruto and Kurama. That sounds like a very serious disease. Chopper, you're like 18. You should know about the bees and the bees, Usopp replied. What do with cooties? Chopper asked. Naruto also looked equally confused. I'll handle this one, Captain Usopp, Kurama said, stopping Usopp from saying any ridiculous lies to Chopper. You see, Chopper, when a mommy and daddy love each other a lot, they Chopper and Naruto didn't hear the rest. Pairs of arms sprouted out of their heads and covered their ears, enough to block out all sound. Over ship, Robin reclined in a lawn chair, a book, while Sanji stood over her with a sun umbrella and a drink. Naruto and Chopper both turned to the older woman, who in turn gave them portbo. Frankie's voice came over the transponder. Snails. That means we won't have to fish for food. Kurama cheered praise to the Lord and his miracles. I never would have guessed you to be a religious type, Usopp said to Kurama. You'd be surprised, Kurama replied. There's a lot about me you don't know. Yeah, but there's more about you that we do know, Naruto said. Oh, shut up, Kurama yelled. What? An island? Their rubber captain exclaimed excitedly. He ran to the port side of the ship and looked out onto the horizon. Sure enough, an island was sitting off in the distance, maybe 50 kilometers away. Oi Nami, is that the next island? Luffy asked his fiancée. The orange-haired woman raised the log post to her eye level and looked through the center needle. It was pointing directly at the island. It sure is, Captain, she replied. It has been said there are islands on the Grand Line that exist in multiple worlds at once and act as gateways between them. Many people have passed through these gateways without noticing, never see their homes again. Unbeknownst to the Straw Hat Pirates, their greatest adventure is about to begin on one such island. Hey guys, there's an island off the port bow. Frankie's voice came over the transponder. Snails. That means we won't have to fish for food. Kurama cheered praise to the Lord and his miracles. I never to be a religious type, Usopp said to Kurama. You'd be surprised, Kurama replied. There's a lot about me you don't know. Yeah, but there's more about you that we do know, Naruto said. Oh, shut up, Kurama yelled. What? An island? Their rubber captain exclaimed excitedly. He ran out onto the horizon. Sure enough, an island was sitting off in the distance, maybe 50 kilometers away. Oi Nami, is that the next island? Luffy asked his fiancée. The orange-haired woman raised the log post to her eye level and looked through the center needle. It was pointing directly at the island. It sure is, Captain, she replied. It has been said that there are islands on the Grand Line and act as gateways between them. Many people have passed through these gateways without noticing, never see their homes again. Unbeknownst to the Straw Hat Pirates, their greatest adventure is about to begin on one such island. The island truly was a natural wonder. The island itself cannot truly be called an island, as it was actually 5 islands grouped together. From the shape of the islands. To the west was an island in the shape of a fork. This island was covered in thick forests covering 900,000 km2. In the like a knife. Just like the fork island, this small island was covered in 900,000 km2 forests. To the north was an island in the shape of a spoon. The spoon bowl itself was filled with fresh water, while the rest of the island was rocky with a few trees here and there, which wasn't much considering the lake took up 3/4 of the island. To the northwest was a circular island that was home to a single solitary peak reaching 500,000 meters with liquid gravy flowing down the sides to its potato shores. In the north was an island remarkably in the shape of a circle from above, but from sea level one could see its true shape as a wine glass. Most of this island was just sheer cliffs with the exception of the top of the rock formation 400,000 meters up. At the top was a plateau of grass, trees and even a small lake, all of this in an area of 100,000 km2. Finally, the island in the center was a large circle like a dinner plate with white sandy beaches all the way around, a massive green field, large mountains reaching 300,000 meters high, and a small city roughly 50 km2. Each of these islands was interconnected with the central island through bridges, old railways and an intricate collection of tunnels running underground, connecting each island. All the smaller islands were roughly 1 million km2 each, and the main island was roughly 2,500,000 km2. Countless species of animals and plants called this archipelago their home. Humans only live in the city located on the coast of the main island. The beasts were too dangerous for them to handle. The Thousand Sunny was currently anchored just of the shore to the main island, and all 11 pirates found themselves relaxing on the white beach. "Hey guys, check it out," Luffy yelled. All the surfing on a wave. Normally a completely suicidal thing to do when you have you. In Luffy's case, the Straw Hat Captain seemed well enough prepared. Luffy was sporting trunks with red flowers, and his straw hat hanging around his neck. He was also wearing red water wings on his arms and a large orange and white inflatable tube around his waist. The wave was a fairly large wave, and the Straw Hat was riding it like a pro. "Be careful, Luffy," Nami yelled out to him. The navigator wore her hair in a ponytail and was wearing a green two-piece bikini. Nami was relaxing in a beach chair underneath a large umbrella. "He'll be fine." Look. The archaeologist was wearing a purple beach dress with wisteria flowers on it over a black bikini. She also wore blade sunglasses and sun hat. If he Nami Swan, Robin Swan, sailed as he flew towards them, his legs transforming into a mini cyclone and somehow producing pink hearts. "Lunch is ready." The pirate for each of them. Sanji wore an open yellow polka-dotted shirt with blue swim trunks decorated with a large pink on the left leg. "Thank you, Sanji," Robin said, tipping her glass off to Sanji. "Yes, thank you, Sanji-kun," Nami said. "I live only to serve." "Hey Robin," Naruto cried. The black-haired woman turned to them. Naruto wore only orange shorts with a black Union Jack on the right leg. "Check out our castle," Chopper squealed in delight. The little wearing black shorts with red flowers on them. All three shaped sand piles on it, the one in the middle being the highest. Out of each really good called. "What?" all three boys asked, confused. "Most great castles have names," Robin replied. Ooh, ooh, ooh. "I got one," Kurama said happily. He reached into his swim trunks pocket and pulled out a little red flag on a stick. "This castle shall be named Castle Kurama," he said as he stuck the flag into the highest. "So says King Kurama." "We never agreed on a name," Naruto said, slapping the air in front of Kurama. "And who said you get to be king?" "How about Sakura Castle?" Chopper asked. "Or Cotton Candy Castle? How does it resemble or even relate to cherry blossoms?" Kurama asked. "Or cotton candy? Why not Castle Eternal Darkness?" Robin asked with a half smile. "Name it Boss Castle," Zoro chimed in, waking up from his nap momentarily. "You go back to sleep," Kurama yelled, pointing accusingly at Zoro. "Nice job, Castle," Usopp said. Usopp was wearing yellow-brown shorts and a cowboy hat. Goggles hung around his neck. "Maybe it'll be better than our," Frankie added. He was wearing a red Speedo with a navy blue Hawaiian shirt with palm trees decorating it. His blue like a lion's mane. "It's an end." Frankie began to roll his arms. Usopp, Brook, Chopper, Kurama, Sanji and Naruto all couldn't resist joining in. "Sue up here," all the they slammed their forearms together over their heads. Nami and Robin just looked at them with straight faces, unable to comprehend the awesome Sure enough, behind Usopp and Frankie was a 3-story extremely detailed sand castle, with a dozen spires and stonework carved into the sand. Show-off's Naruto attack from excitement when they showed him it had a working drawbridge. Food. Luffy screamed to protect herself in a shower of sand. While Sanji berated Luffy for almost hitting Nami and Robin, the orange-haired navigator noticed a change in the weather. This pressure, something's coming, Nami thought as she looked up to the sky. The only question is, what's coming? Crash! Something fell from the sky, startling the pirates. What the hell was that? Usopp freaked. A meteor, Frankie asked, looking at the crater. Shit, that blind man's here, Zoro growled as he gripped his sword, pulling it out an inch. No one seemed to notice, but Zoro appeared rather excited. Blind man? Naruto tilted his head in confusion, turning to Zoro. Ah! The sky's falling, Chopper screamed while running around in circles. That was so scary I jumped out of my skin. Brook said up. Persan, now Kurama-san. With caution the straw hat approached the fallen object. Sniff sniff, Luffy sniffed the object. It smelled familiar meat. He screamed towards the impact. Sure enough, there was a giant piece of meat right on the bone. Fries, oranges, hamburgers, ribs, meatballs and sausage, and many other forms of food and drink. In other words, this place was like heaven for Luffy. This scatterchomp. The straw hat stretched his neck multiple times in a Gatling formation, catching and devouring the falling meat in his mouth. Delicious. In 30 seconds he was sitting on a pile of meat bones. This island is the best. Raining food? I know I studied the New World's weather patterns for 2 years, but this is completely ridiculous. Nami stood next to Robin, who made a canopy of hands to protect them from the food shower. Damn, it's everything but booze, Zoro said with a frown as he lay back down for another nap. Wake me up if booze does end up falling from the sky. Alright, let's stock up on all this food, Sanji ordered Luffy. Stop eating it now. Kurama's ears perked up slightly when a strange sound entered them. Was that a wolf's howl? He turned to the trees behind them to see a rustling in trees. Huh? All three in the monster trio turned towards the forest, sure they heard something. Without warning, a massive white wolf burst out of the trees and landed in front of them. The wolf was massive, easily standing at 26.8 feet tall and about 60 feet, 18 long. It had snow-white fur, 2 blue markings on each side of its face just below its eyes, and a large proud mane of white fur. On its back was a blue saddle with red edges and 2 people. Ah! Chopper, Usopp, Brook, and Nami screamed in terror. Zoro gripped Shusu, Sanji readied himself by lifting a leg, Naruto gripped Harosame, Robin crossed her arms, and Kurama transformed back into his Kyuubi form. Insert Toriko host for Densetsu no Bishaku Idariko. The wolf tuned to the straw hats and its expression turned from emotionless to surprise, then to happiness. It trotted happily over to Luffy and gave him a wet slobbery kiss. That's what the pirates realized. There were 2 people on the beast's back. The first of these 2 men was a large muscular fellow standing at a whopping 7 feet 3, 220 cm for those who use the metric system. He had wild blue hair, big eyebrows, and 3 scars running across his left ear to under his left eye. He wore a shiny red jumpsuit with a popped collar, ripped edges on the shoulders, a dark blue undershirt also with ripped sleeves, and navy blue boots, and a red band around his left forearm. The other man wore sea green khaki shirt and shorts boots. He was about 155 centimeters, 5 feet, had short black hair and a big nose. He also wore a dark green backpack. Luffy? The large man questioned in surprise. He jumped off of the wolf and landed right in front of the Straw Hat Pirate. Oi! Toriko, Luffy cried, waving his arms wildly. How are you? The large muscular man's name is Toriko, known as the charismatic Bishakuya the Glutton. Awesome, Luffy replied. The two men walked up to each other and smashed fists together. How have you been? Do you complete your full course yet? Not yet, Toriko replied. I'm only halfway done with it. Shishishi. You gotta let me know when it's finished, Luffy laughed. I wanna try it so bad. We'll eat it in celebration of you becoming the king, Toriko laughed. They seem to be getting along, Naruto said to himself watching Luffy and Toriko talk. Who are these guys? Oi Komatsu, how are your cooking skills coming along? Sanji asked the shorter man. They're coming along fine, Sanji-san, but my skills are nowhere near yours, Komatsu said while rubbing the back of his neck. Are you crazy? Toriko asked, putting a hand on Komatsu. Just got into the Igo chef ranking at number 88. Wow. Sanji said. I knew you had it in you, the cook added. Terry, Nami cried happily to the white wolf. The wolf lowered its head to her level and gave her a small kiss on the cheek. Oh, you're so sweet. You've grown so much, Terry, Chopper cried excitedly. And you've gotten fluffier, Nami added as she cradled the wolf's head, who seemed to enjoy it when she started to scratch him behind the ears. Terry sat right down and began to rapidly stomp his foot. Oh, you like that, don't you? Nami asked, to which Terry yipped in delight. Luffy and Toriko turned over to Nami, Chopper and Terry, the ancient king of Gourmet World. Nami should just be a beast tamer, Luffy said. She's got Terry wrapped around her thumb. I'll tell ya, she can bend practically anyone to her will. Well, you guys haven't changed that much at all since the last time we met. Yeah, wasn't it that tournament on that island? Sure was. Remember that fight between you, me and Goku? I wanna fight him again someday, Luffy said looking up to the sky. Shishishi. I still can't believe that Mr. Sandman guy beat us. I think his name was Satan, not Sandman. I wonder if we'll see Goku again. Who knows, Toriko replied. He did give us that private training session before we all parted ways. It was way too short, Luffy said. Oh well. We still got to eat that ultimate meat, didn't we? It was so good I almost made it part of my full course menu. Who are these guys? Naruto questioned, hoping someone would answer him this time. They're some old friends, Robin answered. We've run into them about 4 times. Still doesn't answer my question, Naruto said as he looked over to see Luffy and Toriko having an arm wrestling contest, with no clear winner coming out. Sanji and Komatsu seemed to be having a nice chat. Before Naruto and Kurama got a good explanation, Terry, the wolf, walked over to them and began to sniff them. Terry seemed far more interested in the nine-tailed, for that was Kurama, because he sniffed the sides of the fox's head before circling around and shoving his nose into Kurama's butt. Kurama yelped in surprise and jumped up. What's the big idea? Terry seemed to be taken aback by Kurama talking, but quickly continued to try and sniff the demon fox. Let's see how you like it, Kurama said as he began to circle around the larger wolf, trying to sniff his butt. Unfortunately, there was a height difference between the two, what with Terry being 5 times the size of Kurama and all. Damn it. Excuse me for a second, Kurama said as he peeked under Terry's hind legs. Sweet mother of God. What's wrong, Kurama? B. What? Naruto questioned. Is it a boy? Can't believe I looked. I broke a major rule. I looked at it. He is a boy. That is for me to know and you to find out. On second thought, it's better if you didn't look. That is a very rude thing to do. You just did it. And I regret it deeply. Now I'm confused. Didn't you look to see if Terry was a boy or a girl? What's got your tails in a knot? I'm just so jealous. Kurama turned back into his human form and began to sulk for reasons unknown to Naruto. Terry seemed surprised slightly by the fact his new friend had just disappeared, but this new guy still smelled like him. The battle wolf went right back to sniffing Kurama. Why can't I be like Terry? Big, strong and a chick magnet. Yeah, cause nothing screams I'm a ladies' man like a 2-pushing 3-story 9-tailed fox who is seen as the embodiment of hate. Tomato, Kurama said, shrugging his shoulders. You are so full of yourself it isn't even funny. Say that again when you're the oldest of 9 kids. Not too far from the shore the water began rumbled and bubbled. Luffy Toriko questioned as they turned to the disturbance, and song. Gora. Out of the water emerged a large shark with a serpentine body measuring 80 meters long. It was covered in red jagged scales, 6 pectoral fins, 3 sets of gills, and 2 dorsal fins, the forward fin being twice the size of the other one. The upper portion of its head was protected by a skull with 3 horns. 2 protruded just past the eyes and were each a meter long, while the horn on its nose resembled a saw. Eel shark capture level 42. An eel shark, Komatsu exclaimed. That thing's a capture level 42. The monster trio, Toriko and Terry, all got ready to fight. Splish! A streak of pinkish red shot out of the water and pierced through the eel shark's throat. Rah! The shark let out a death howl as a forest of tentacles burst from the sea, wrapping completely around the eel shark and pulled it back under. Shit, Naruto said, slightly unnerved. Well, I'm not going swimming in the ocean ever again. Dude, you can't even swim, Kurama said. Neither can you. Touché. Shoom! The eel shark's skeleton was shot out of the water like a bullet, crash and landed right on top of Frankie and Usopp's sand castle, reducing it to nothing more than a pile of sand. Oh, the humanity, Usopp screamed. Hey, it looks like me now, Brook said, looking at the shark skeleton. No one got injured in that, right? We're fine. Nami said, speaking up for herself and Robin. No one did, but what the hell was that? Frankie asked. Sploosh! Out from the water rose a large sea monster, easily dwarfing the Sunny in size, standing at a whopping 70 meters tall and 120 meters long. It was a large green-skinned shark crocodile octopus hybrid with a white belly, possessing crocodile-like features such as scales, legs, and 2 rows of 2-inch scaly spines running from its head to the end of its tail, and shark-like features such as a dorsal fin, gills, tail, and 4 rows of razor-sharp teeth. It had a large pulsing head and a mane of octopus tentacles around the skull. When it opened its mouth to roar, they could see a second mouth with an octopus beak where the throat would normally begin. Great white croctopus, capture level 34. Odd. Usopp, Chopper, Nami, Brook, and Komatsu screamed, sea monster. Shit. That's a big monster, Kurama said before turning around to Terry. Will you stop sniffing my ass? The white wolf stopped, but the moment Kurama turned around again, Terry went right back to sniffing. Oh, for the love of God, poo off! Kurama transformed once again into his full Kyuubi form, only this time he made himself equal in height to Terry. Happy. Arf! Terry barked happily. A great white croctopus? That's what killed the eel shark? Its capture level is so much lower, Komatsu screamed. I'm not surprised about that. Toriko said reassuringly to Komatsu. That animal is part shark, part crocodile, and part octopus, which means it's actually quite smart. It's probably learned that any species of shark needs to keep moving. That's how their gills work, like a filtration system. The croctopus simply wounded the eel shark, then restricted its movement with its tentacles, slowly strangling it while that beak eats it out from the inside. It ate the eel shark from the inside? Naruto asked. That's how it started. Once the beast was dead, it swapped for its main jaw, which I'm guessing can deliver roughly 10 tons of force, devouring the shark in seconds. Toriko finished. I find it strange though, eel sharks normally hunt in packs. Even if that one was alone, its pack shouldn't be too far behind unless the croctopus already killed them. Unbeknownst to the pirates, Toriko, Komatsu, and Terry, beneath the surface of the sea were over 24 eel shark skeletons, all of them slowly falling to the bottom of the sea. That thing's tinny, Zoro said, pulling Shusu and Sandai Kitetsu from their sheaths. Hardly even a workout. How should I cook this thing? Sanji asked. Deep fry if like calamari. Or should I saute it in butter? What a vulgar creature, Robin chimed in. I wonder how it would try and eat us. Ah, it's time to party, Frankie said. And clang, he slammed his large forearms together over his head. A super party. Roar, the croctopus roared as it advanced to the shore. Can that thing survive on land? Nami asked, frightened. I wouldn't be too concerned about it surviving on land, Toriko said. I'm a bit more concerned that we're in its territory. I'm guessing that's a bad thing. Sanji added. Oh yeah. Croctopi are notorious for being extremely territorial. Don't worry, Nami, I'll protect you, Luffy said. Please go back into the water. Please go back into the water. Please go back into the water, Usopp repeated over and over again. Please don't eat us. Please don't eat us. Please don't eat us, Chopper began to say while hiding behind Naruto. Stomp! A large crocodile foot came out of the water and touched down on the beach, followed closely by another, then 4 others. Roar. The 6-legged behemoth roared, and pulling itself out of the water. I guess it can survive out of the water, Zoro said, pulling out Wado Ichimon's piece.